So today we're going to talk a little bit about proper setup of a GS2 and GS3 display as it pertains to getting you up and functioning in the field without having issues. So the first thing we're going to talk about is a lot of you guys have this page that says controller not yet available that comes up. That is one of our biggest questions that we get on the phone when guys get started in the field. So the very first thing we're going to do is go to main menu and go through a layout manager. Now in this simulation we are going to go set up a planner. So over here on the right hand side you're going to see all the different options of how your screen is laid out. For this we're going to set up a planner split screen with a rate controller as well as guidance. So we'll select letter G here and it'll bring up 3 different pages that we can use. So the first portion of this is select the screen that you want to put something in, click on the planner, select your planner for that page, and then click on the next section of the screen in which we're going to actually put our rate controller. Now there are a couple options that you can put for rate controller pages. There was only one for planner in this simulation. So once you find the one that you like, you can click on that and lock it in. Now if you were looking for multiple home pages, you will have to go up here and select, and you can do up to 5 different home pages. So if we are going to set up a secondary home page, we need to first make sure it's check marked to include in the home pages and then pick the option that we want for it. So this one we're going to do similar to, we are actually going to pick a planner for the bigger portion of, which it's still initializing, and then we are going to pick a split screen for guidance only. There are a lot of options here. You can see that it's 1 through 23 pages. So find the one that you want. Usually pretty simple just to be able to tell what you've ran before. Once you find what you like, go ahead and lock that in. I'm actually going to leave up there the one that was already pre-selected. Now if you wanted to set up another home page, again, pick home page 3, include it, and then pick the style. A lot of guys like to put a single page on there so as though they can see their GS3, which we just did. Lock that in, accept. Now we have 3 of 3 home pages. We can click through them and see what we've made. So for the next portion of this is, after we have our home pages set, is what you need to do for properly setting up that display so as though everything happens the way that it needs to on screen. So there are 2 different ways. One, and it's also a misconception, is when guys put check marks in these boxes, they automatically think that that's going to make their display do whatever they check. It is not. That is a setup wizard, and if you hit accept and you see this little footnote down here that says indicates required fields, if you hit accept, it's going to take you to a page that makes you walk through multiple different pages to get through every setup portion that you need. But we're not going to use the setup wizard. We're going to X out of that. Basically, if you look at these boxes and how you check them, it is walking you right down the right-hand side of this screen. So the first one being resources. We're going to pick client, farm, and field to start. Then we're going to pick our task. We're going to work on harvest in this section. It is critical to get the crop season correct, which is 2020, so we're going to go ahead and select that because when the documentation goes back to the computer, it is going to put it in the year that is selected at this point. Once you have those filled out, the next portion is equipment. So it is already hooked up and locked onto a combine as your machine type. The next portion is picking a model. We're going to pick an S6 series combine. Actually, it's a T series. Then we have to look at measurements. You have to get your measurements in which we put together a different class for properly measuring the equipment out. Then you're going to pick your header type. In this box we're going to put the model of our 612 corn head and hit accept. Once we do that, you will notice unless you have pre-populated measurements out of your operations center, you are going to have to measure out those measurements just the same as you did on your machine. Now at the bottom here, we are talking about 30 foot wide and 12 row. If you don't want to see it in 12 row 30-inch spacing, you can change widths by changing the foot row to actual feet. So 30 foot track spacing, 30 foot physical width, and then hit accept. The next portion is on the harvesting with your combine is overlap control. By checking this box down here at the bottom, you'll be able to index off 2 rows at a time of that 12 row head as you enter and exit headlands, and go in and out of fields. Then continuing down our right-hand side, we're going to look at documentation. Documentation is already pre-populated from our task in the Client Farm Field task page, so it is on harvest. So the first thing we are going to do here is change harvest settings. We are going to pick our crop type, and we know we're picking corn. Then we're going to pick brands. If you have them pre-populated, you can just pick them from the drop-down list. In this video, we are going to just pick brand A, and then variety, we're just going to pick one. So with this, variety locator is another thing that gets overlooked a little bit. Variety locator, a lot of people tend to think that if you take the planter display and it knows where the varieties were planted, it is going to automatically do what you want it to do and tell you where the varieties are in that combine. That is not true. That data needs to go from that planting display through the Operations Center and be put back out in file format so that variety locator files are loaded properly to the screen. So just by putting a check in that box, it will then add those variety locator files in. Variety change audible tones. So if you want to hear a beep every time that combine is going in and out of another variety zone, you can put a check mark there. Once that is all done, you hit accept. I am going to hit cancel as this display does not have variety locator files currently loaded in it. Up here at the top where you have your task of harvest, you'll notice another one that is new. With new being in there, that is exactly how you want to see it when you are in that combine, is harvest and new only. If you have another one such as this, or tillage or planting or application or anything else in there, remove it, otherwise it will not allow recording to happen. Once documentation is set up, then we are going to look at how we want things to lay out on the screen. So we got our home pages, but what is that mapping page going to look like? So in the mapping page, you will have a map settings down at the bottom. A lot of you want to see what the legends are, and when the yield changes, you want to see a different color. So we're going to change coverage only so it's not just painting blue, and we are actually going to do yield. When we do that, we're going to hit accept and lock that in. But we're not done. So if you look on the left-hand side, you see coverage and overlap only here. If you go down to the bottom, you will have a legend and a coverage button. By opening up that legend box, you will be able to custom select yield to different colors. So you open that up and you have to know about what your range is going to be for your crop. So in this example, I'm going to put 250 as the high side on our corn, and I'm going to pick 100 as the low side. What that's going to do is it's going to give me nice even breaks. So anything below 100 bushel per acre is going to be purple. Anything over and above 250 is going to be green, and they're nice breaks in between in 50 bushel increments. So accept and lock that in. So after we get our mapping page how we want it and our legends all set, the next portion is guidance. Once we jump into the guidance page, if you've previously loaded a new profile to this display, odds are guidance off is going to be defaulted. Go to guidance settings and pick the tracking mode that you wish to use. In this case, we're just going to use straight track. Once that's on, you go ahead and accept your warning there. Go to the view. Now what we have down here is a diagnostics box by the Pi for auto track. That diagnostic box tells us a few things, and this is also true when you're having trouble in the field. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. When I do that, look at the first piece of the pie here. Basically, you have to look at a couple of different things. You have to know that that vehicle is able to steer on its own with a steering controller, and that you have an auto track license that's active. If you have that, you will have the first piece of this pie. The second piece means that you have valid GPS and that you have tracking mode selected along with free of trouble codes. If you are not free of trouble codes, you will not get the second piece of the pie. The other portion of this second piece is you also need a valid A/B line defined, and as you can see in this example, it says no. Steering on/off comes on with that third piece, and then when you engage auto track, it goes to your full A. So we're going to go ahead and set a track, click new, name it how you want. We're going to go to an A+ heading method just for simplicity, and we're going to hit accept. So as you see, the second piece of that pie came in. That is the third piece of the pie, and when you hit that resume button, the fourth piece will be active. You should be good to go with documentation and guidance at this point.